Hi guys, my name's Emmanuel. For those that usually follow the channel, I always do my videos in Spanish. Rarely have I done videos in English, but today I'm here with Joshua Recene.
Hey!
I met you last year during the Luzca Film Festival. I want to give a shout out to Zoilo and his staff for always keeping the festival running. Your movie was nominated in International Feature Film,
Which was an awesome honor. Yeah.
yeah, and so we're gonna be talking on later on about the film, but first I want to get to know you, and so the guys from Movie Squad can also get to know you. How did you get started in filmmaking?
I did go to school for it. And then once I graduated, I realized, wow, this isn't really a way to make money. So what happened is I really poured myself into, I did have an art background and I pushed myself into animation and I went more the commercial route. So I started working in animation, motion graphics, commercials. And what was awesome was I got into a great studio. And as that studio grew, I just got more and more exposure. And something I noticed was that all the guys doing commercials all really wanted to make films.
Yeah.
But the problem you run into is you start to set up such a high production value. The number to make films, it becomes just exponentially more difficult. It's like you're doing these commercials and you make your stuff look really good for that. And then you're like, oh, well, for the film, I need this huge crew. I need this big kit to do this and that. And what happened is the guy who actually filmed, who we worked together on this film, Michael Yamin, we started working together and we sort of like, all right, let's make a feature. Let's do this. And so we started doing shorts together. And our approach to the shorts was we were going to shoot it like a feature, especially a lower budget feature. So we really tried to do the most that we could with guerrilla style, with low budget, with going to shoots and really trying to keep everything contained and really get the most with that. And that led us into these features. With Demon Behind the Glass, I was looking for an avenue to kind of get into longer content at a lower risk value. And there was a period of time where the digital shorts were really starting to take off. And so Demon Behind the Glass was originally written as these 6-minute episodes for web. And we had actually shot a couple, different actors, it was a different setting. And what happened was I took 2 of the episodes and started talking to distributors. And they're like, you know what? We're really not going to be able to distribute that. But at the quality that you have, if you can hit this and do it as a feature, we're very interested. So that became the catalyst to say, okay, let's all figure out a way how to make this happen. And then we took a summer and shot the film.
I watched the film, but I want you to tell people what the film is about. So when it reaches digital platforms on July 16th, people can know what it's about and what to look forward to.
Great. Yeah, it's about a disgraced journalist who's trying to get his career back. And his logic is he's going to go up into upstate New York. He's going to rent a place there, and he's going to really dive in to fracking, and he's going to try and uncover a story in that. But what happens is he discovers a body in the wall behind the bathroom mirror of his rental place. He realizes, okay, so there's a forgotten corpse. There's signs of the occult. This could be my comeback story. Problem is he's a disgraced journalist. He's a journalist with a past. And so when that body becomes reanimated by ancient demons, the local authorities think it's all hoax to sell his art, sell his story. And when that corpse starts killing people, he's the prime suspect. So now he's in a race against hell to figure out who he can trust and how he can get back on top.
What did you learn by doing this film that you haven't perhaps previously thought while making the other projects?
Many things, but something that really comes to mind is expectations. And we oftentimes as filmmakers, at least for me, and I think all of us involved, we just naturally are going to overstate what's going to get accomplished. We always think we're going to breeze through the scene quicker. We don't realize that, oh, everybody in the neighborhood is going to mow their lawn at the same time. There's going to be sirens going off. The creature that we have set up isn't going to function at the moment. We have to, there's any number of things that go wrong. And so what happens is all of a sudden our plans were overstated. And the at least for me, I think what happens is then you try to compromise and try to come up with a solution. And the immediate reaction is to understate. We're like, you know what? If I can't get that creature, let's just cut it. If I can't get this location, let's cut it. And you get this gamut. I'm trying to get my hands in there. And it's like between overstated and understated. And what I started to think about is this area between those two, this gradient. That's where filmmaking is really made. That's really where the skill set comes into place. And it's working within that area. And that's where we sculpt our movies. It's like we're looking at the options at hand and we're saying, okay, maybe might be in the middle. It might be closer to the advanced expectation or the lowest, but that's really where we're kind of crafting. And that's really each of us, no matter what our position is on the film, is we're playing within that gradient, within those parameters, and trying to produce the best product. And so what happens is and a lot of times for me, I would have to take a moment, but I would say, okay, I've got between here and here, what can we make happen? And I don't know, for me, it helped as far as finding direction and problem solving moving forward.
Where did you draw inspiration for Demon Behind the Glass?
Good question. So it came from a couple of sources. One, there's a Bible verse that's used throughout the film, and I remember coming across the verse, and it's in Matthew, it's also in Luke, and it's Jesus. And to me, Jesus switches over into a horror film of his own, and he tells this story, and he says, when a demon leaves a man, it goes to the dry places looking for rest. Finding none, it returns. Finds the house swept clean. It goes out and finds 7 worse demons, returns, and the end result of that man is worse off than before. I'm like, oh, that sounds creepy. That sounds like the basis of something horror oriented. And the more I studied it and the more I looked into it, the more I'm like, okay, this is a really kind of a cool context. There's a lot of meaning here. There's a lot of subtext. There's a lot of stuff here just in the source material. Now, a lot of times what happens, I found, and this could be an ignorance, but a lot of times when I come across something that would be like religious oriented with horror, a lot of times they'd make up the verse or they'd cobble some things together to sound extra creepy. But I'm like, when you go back to it, I didn't know if it was all that grounded. So I'm like, okay, so I want to stay true to that. And the more I went with looking into that, the more that excited me. Then secondly, going back to my childhood, the house I grew up in actually had a crawl space in the bathroom. So, and I had 2 brothers, and we were all very close in age. So we were constantly pranking each other by you'd be in the shower and somebody would be in that crawl space about to play some prank on you. Or you'd be looking in the bathroom mirror getting ready and you'd hear a subtle sound behind there. And there'd be something in the wall and somebody's about to do something. And just the vulnerability of, because by nature, let's face it, it's the bathroom. That's where we're a lot of times most vulnerable. and having something creeping around back there, that kind of got me. And as I started to kind of think through this storyline, the idea of a corpse or something dead in the wall, I just liked the imagery. Even I found it kind of poetic of there's something dead behind that mirror. And if I know about it and I cover that back up, is that something you can forget about? Is it, there just kind of became a bunch of these like little pieces of thoughts that started to come together. And then when I went back to the verse, even from a comedic creative standpoint, I started to think about it. I'm like, wait, so if the whole idea is like the one demon leaves, it comes back with bigger, badder demons, is there a way to kind of think of this as like a reverse engineer this Bible verse as a demon trap? And so all these concepts kind of, it was like where they coalesced, and I kind of started to think about them. And that's where I kind of came up with this weird little story.
In terms of the creature, for me, it was very interesting, the design.
So originally when I was working on it, it was the thing about it was, okay, so there's a corpse in a raincoat behind the mirror. The imagery I just found interesting. And I wanted it to be very decayed, unnaturally so, longer than it should have, because there's a supernatural element to this story. There had to be something otherly about it. Then when I worked with Jesse Gabor on who created the creatures, I kind of let him go wild. We'd kind of talk concepts, and then he would kind of show up with stuff, and we'd kind of go back and forth. And and we'd kind of play with different materials, different ways. There was also that element to the creature, and I don't want to give too much away, but the verse does talk about him going out and getting 7 more worse himself. So we realized there had to be other, we had to make it look like there was other stuff going on inside in other versions. So then we started to kind of play with different ways how to add that, and play with different materials. And before I really started pushing to learn film, I always had an interest in creature design. I always had an interest in that kind of stuff. In fact, one of my favorite movies that really had a huge impact on me was do you remember Evil Dead 3, Army of Darkness, the original one?
Sam Raimi.
And I don't know how you feel about it. Some people hate that stuff, but I was just, as a kid, I'm like, they're doing everything. If it's stop motion, if it's a puppet, if we can make a milk can look scary, we're going to do it. And they just threw whatever they would throw, green screen. And I was really inspired by that. And it was like, okay. I mean, horror is kind of that kind of, I don't want to say anything goes, but there's a lot you can bring to the palette. And it was just kind of, that's where it's fun. It's like, okay, we're going to rig up something that's going to squirt blood, and we're going to kind of put somebody in something we built at Home Depot and covered in some crazy latex or silicone. But it was just, I don't know. We just kind of had fun with it. And then we would use some animals. And so you saw there was a lot of bugs. One of my hobbies, one of my passions is I love to keep reptiles. So I keep lizards and snakes, and that's just, I don't know. I just enjoy that stuff. So because of that, there's always a lot of weird bugs and stuff. And I just noticed that, like, anytime you bring out bugs, you get a visceral response from people. I'm like, I'm going to work my window however I can. So I had thousands of cockroaches, and we used them here and there.
What's your next project going to be about? Like the next Joshua Recene film?
We're discussing a number of things. There's a number of scripts that literally as a group of filmmakers we've created, and we're looking at. There's a number of projects that we're kind of pitching. We're looking at some avenues. Since Demon Behind the Glass started going in the festival run, we started even being contacted by some others as far as helping them out with some other projects. Demon Behind the Glass comes out this month, July 16th, and I want to gain as much information from that as far as like how this whole process, connecting the dots from making the film to distribution.
If you had all the money in the world, hypothetically, which avenue would you go?
I have really been enjoying genre films. I do really enjoy it. I love the poetry of it. I love the idea that you can have like dark, creepy woods, and it instantly sets a vibe and instantly just kind of excites creativity. But at the same time, I feel like there's so much room to explore deeper myths and deeper questions in life, and put that all together and play in that world of fable and mythology and explore like meanings and so forth, but also have a blast doing it. So I think I would, for me personally, there's a lot that I still want to explore in those genres, in definitely in the horror-esque. I mean, horror is interesting by nature. It can be combined with all kinds of stuff. Like this film is kind of like horror, mystery horror, however you want to say it. You can throw in thriller, you can throw in any number. I look at films like I was really inspired by the initial, the first Mummy movie and the first Hellboy and those kind of things where they kind of put in like horror and adventure in the avenues you can go. Like if you have the big enough budget, to kind of explore that. And there's just definitely there's stories in those worlds I'd love to get into. And coming from a visual effects background, you want to play with the toys. You really want to do more with the creature designs and stuff. I love creature features. I think if I can always work that in, I will. I mean, there's ideas that don't include that, but I don't know. As far as my dreams, I love playing in those things.
It was really fun talking to you, Joshua. Let's hope everyone gets to watch Demon Behind the Glass. I'm going to share with the people of Movie Squad here your social media accounts, so they can be so today with everything that's going on with Demon Behind the Glass and with yourself as a filmmaker.
I just appreciate you having me on here. And I'm excited about even what you guys are doing too.
So people, there you have it. Demon Behind the Glass, July 16th on video on demand. So thank you so much, Joshua. And we'll see you on the next one, people.